welcome to Sonic Talk episode 436, recording today live Wednesday the 10th of February, just before Valentine's Day. Well, not just before, but significant, and also the Oscars, which are on the same day, I believe, so that's something to look forward to if either you're expecting a Valentine's card or an Oscar. This is the podcast where we talk about all things music technology, music production, pro audio, all that kind of stuff. If you're interested in more of that, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We always welcome you, and we've got lots of other videos as well, reviews, show coverage, all of that kind of stuff. Anyway, I'll get on. Just want to say also thank you very much to our show sponsors, UVI with the Falcon hybrid instrument. Go to bit.ly.com/STFalcon, or in fact just go to UVI.net and then you can check out the demo and all of those good things. Anyway, welcome one and all. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got a couple of people we haven't had for a little while. We'll start over here with Mr. Dave Spears in his G4 Software Synth Cave, where there seems to be a huge hole just behind him.
Oh no, it's gone.
Which I'm pretty sure there used to be an OB8. Have you misplaced it?
It's gone.
Oh no! Oh, you were posting pictures, weren't you, of it being recorded and such like?
Yeah, it's in a studio in London.
Being used.
I'm not saying where because it'll get robbed, won't it?
Yeah, well, don't say where. But
no,
has it been put to good use?
No, it's being used. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was amazing. We took it up, introduced it to the band, and everyone sort of stood around looking at it, talking to each other, but just looking at it like it was, I don't know, either a naked female or a kind of vintage E-type or something. And then I showed them how to use it, and they all went and swore profusely at how sexy it sounded. And yeah, then we walked away after a fashion. So yeah, I've got the JP8 in there at the minute in the hole.
Not as tall though, is it? It's very slimline by comparison. Looks tiny.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very, but it's nice because I'll use the 8 voice, once a day. So it's kind of nice when it's not around to put something else in there and go, right, now I'm going to use this.
I'm guessing
I've really gotten into the JP8.
You can imagine, as those adverts, those adverts where these kind of kitchen utensils and things are all saying, "Oh, it's my turn this time," and now in the little personality that those synths have in their little kind of world that they enter when you leave the room, and they all wake up and talk to each other.
Well, I have to be honest. It's been in the The JP8's been in the kitchen since I picked it up from you, and the missus was like, I think it got to about Christmas time, and she's like, "Can I just move it? Can I move it, please? Can we have something other than that?" And the Oscar was in there as well. So it then went into the downstairs, what was the downstairs loo, which is now kind of book room for a while.
Synth room.
Yeah, and then it came out. It was, I was like, yeah, I've forgotten all about that. Anyway, yes.
I'm just thinking, if you're putting synthesizers in the loo, you should have a Pro 1, obviously, because it's a 1, and what's something 2? A Pro 2 or an Octave Kitten Mark 2 or Odyssey Mark 2, just so you've got a 1 and a 2 in there. Anyway, that's terrible toilet gag.
The worst was going to, when we go to Kent's, because he's got so much gear there that he's fixing at any given time. His downstairs loo, it was a kind of middle-aged male thing, trying to avoid weeing on the, I think it was a DX1 or a DX5. I think it was a DX1 and a PPG. And I was quite tempted with the PPG, but I didn't.
PPG, obviously. Oh, toilet humour's the finest thing known to man, certainly when combined with synthesizers. But anyway, Dave, Dave Spears for G4 Software, thank you very much. And of course, you've got the Streetly Tapes Volume 3 out, I noticed this week. We posted a little news item. You get to plug that at some point in the show, but I'm going to introduce somebody else first. Robbie Bronneman. Robbie Bronneman, still at your secret studio location recording an album. You've been off grid for a while.
Oh god, we had like 3 weeks of like BT in their infinite wisdom decided to turn the internet off and turn it into a phone line only account. So then it had to be reset up. So that was 2 weeks with no internet. And then we had those colossal storms about a week ago, which took all the cabling out. So then they had to come with a cherry picker and all that stuff this week.
Man.
So it's back on, but it's not back up to its speed. It's only on like 3 meg, and it'll go up to 6. Woo! woo. But I wasn't sure whether it was going to sustain this, but it seems to be all right.
Glad to have you aboard, and once again, thank you to your client for giving you the time out to join us. I'm guessing all that time that you weren't surfing the internet and talking to your family, you can now recoup in Sonic Talk time.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. It has been good from a work point of view. Although today, for some reason, the heating, there's like this crazy biomass heating system here, and it's decided to go haywire, and now the temperature in here is 27. So I've got all the windows open, and I'm like, I'm slowly dying here. It's like ridiculous. It had to be working, and
It's
now
a
it's working.
technology meltdown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
At least all the gear's working. That's the main thing. Anyway, well, thank you very much for joining us, Robbie. And, of course, so we now have Mr. Marc Tinley. Marc Tinley, he of the ever-changing hair. How are you, Mark?
It's the same. It's just...
Oh, is it? It's a flat Mohican. If it was a coffee, it would be a flat blue.
Look at that.
Wow. No, I'm getting that. That's got a bit of new romance about it.
Yeah. I can be a Blitz kid. Well, a Blitz granddad, maybe. Oh, actually, no, I'm not a granddad yet. I better not wish that too quickly. I won't wish that on my daughter or son. They're probably not ready to be father or mother yet. But,
we've not seen you since before NAMM, have we, Mark?
No, we haven't. No. But I only would have been miserable and misanthropic if I'd come on and talked about NAMM, because I was expecting this like revelations and overexcitement and everything, and there wasn't that much that really touched me, I'm afraid. So, sorry.
Well, we'll come on to that in a sec, because we've got 3 new non-post NAMM victims. So, but first, we'll say hello to Mr. Rich Hilton, who's there in New England, sunny by the looks of it. Rich, of course, keyboard player for Chic and Nile Rodgers studio guy. How are you doing, Rich?
I'm good, thank you. The morning snow clearing is starting to become a routine, however.
Oh, wow. Is it really?
Daily. In the last couple, anyway.
So have you got like 18 tons of snow on your roof, that kind of thing, or is it not too bad?
No, it's been inches at a time, not feet at a time. It's not quite like that, but there's probably a good 6 to 8 inches on my table on the back porch.
Well, I'm pleased that you're safe and warm, and I don't know what other things that the snow brings, but a good reason to stay in, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Happy to be here with you guys.
And we're happy to have you too. Thank you very much for joining us. I guess before we get on, I mean, as 3 of the panel weren't around for our post-NAMM discussion, we should probably just have a quick whip round and just see what they made of it before we move on to other matters. Mark, I know that you said, obviously, that you were not all that enamoured, and I know your focus is quite often on guitar kind of stuff. Was there anything that kind of floated your boat from what you did see?
Well, I mean, I did like the Arturia analog synth, but what really excited me was the Chapman 8-string guitar,
which I believe.
Because I didn't even know there was such a thing as an 8-string guitar. So, and one of the problems I've got when I play the guitar,
all 8 of them.
All 8 of them, yeah.
Oops.
But one of the problems I've got when I play the guitar, let's do this slightly differently to that, like this, is if I use a slide, I tune it to 2 different tunings, and one of the tunings is an open G, and the other tuning is a drop D. And what I suddenly realise is actually, if I had a 7-string guitar, I could tune the top 6 strings to. Hang on, let me just get.
But you could have 2
to drop D,
2 tunings. That's an interesting idea.
But then the deeper 6 strings would be open G, but an octave. No, open D, but an octave. Oh, well, I don't know.
But you could have effectively 2 tuners, 2 tunings on the same guitar. That's an interesting idea.
Basically, I can do. I think of the guitar. I think of those 2 tunings. It's 2 different things, and then the fingerings for scales and chords are different on those 2 things. But actually, it's only 1 string across. So I could put both tunings on the same neck, and learn to combine those chords and fingerings and create. It's sort of like it becomes like dad gad, but it doesn't end with gad. It ends with blah. Which I can't remember off the top of my head, but
that's I suppose you could string a guitar up to, actually, if you had an 8-string guitar, it's possible that you could actually do 2 fours, couldn't you? And have them actually choose your own set of 4, so they wouldn't necessarily all have to be, thick to thin. You could have, 4 thins and 4 thins, or 4 thicks and 4 thicks, I suppose. I'm
still considering it. I'm trying to work. I mean, the way they tune that Chapman guitar is they've got a low B below the low E, and then they've got a low F sharp, I think, underneath that. So it's almost as deep as a bass guitar. But this is for these like grunge metal bands that just want to like do that really heavy kind of gnarly drop tuning thing. Now I don't want to do that. So I'm thinking maybe I could do the 8. If I learn a 7, then maybe I could do the 8 with an even higher, because you can put a high A on a 7 string, I think. So maybe I could do that, and then have the low end and the high end of what you would do on a 7 string, and do a sort of a hybrid. But I did try. I went to the local guitar shop and tried one out, and it feels really manly actually. The neck's really wide, so it's like whoa, this is good.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like fun. I mean, it sounds like a lot of technique would have to be relearnt there, but I guess it's going to be worth it, because I think that's the thing that daunts all of us, perhaps, is the knowledge of having to kind of learn new workflows on new instruments and stuff. But speaking of which, Robbie, obviously, Mr. Seaboard, the 49. Have you got a 49 yet? The Seaboard Rise was there at NAMM, wasn't it?
I totally predicted that was going to happen, because I thought they're not going to do any other size because it will encroach on the full size, grand ones. So I thought 4's the logical size, and I'm very tempted by getting a 4, but I'm getting on great with my 2-octave one here, and with the octave buttons you can get around quite easily.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I just don't know whether it's high on my list. If I hadn't have bought the 2-octave, I might have just gone straight for a 4-octave one.
So other matters of NAMM, anything there particularly take your fancy?
Well, I mean, seeing as I've now got the P6 desktop module, which I'm loving, which is great, which kind of filled I want one quality analog poly that doesn't take up sort of OB8 or big size. I was kind of seduced by the OB6.
Yeah.
By Dave Smith, and knowing that, looking at the form factor, which is exactly like the P6, it will only be a matter of time before there's a desktop version of it, and it would go lovely as a sort of companion to my P6.
I can see you're starting to...
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, I like the Arturia thing as well. I don't think I could afford the space for a mono like that.
So it's not a financial constraint; it's a space constraint. That's an interesting way of looking at it.
It's just having all this stuff piling up. But no, I mean, I tell you what I've been loving is the new Melodyne 4.
Yeah,
that was. I mean, it came out just before NAMM, but to me that was one of the most exciting things, because there's so much great new stuff in it. That you can
Why
do.
should I buy it? Why? What does it do? Yeah.
Well, it locks.
I mean, I've got Melodyne, but why should I upgrade to 4? What does it do?
Oh, it's so numerous. It does all this sort of clever stuff with changing tempos in real time. Stretch tempos, which is fantastic, and also it locks to the grid with tempos and stuff much more elegantly than it did before. So it's a very worthy upgrade. So,
one thing that I would say, I was talking to Gaz about this actually the other day, and he's really excited about the tonal shaping, the sound shaping, because he said not only can you change the spectrum of the sound, you can change the amplitude, so you can use it like a sort of dynamic EQ stroke compressor, which is very musical to what you put into it. So if you he's thinking about doing an experiment where he mixes an entire multi-track using it for EQ and dynamics on each one, just to see how it all fits, and whether or not it kind of presents a different kind of sound. And he's really excited about that. So you should talk to Gaz about it, Mark, because he was really quite buzzing about that. And I think when I spoke to the guy there, I forget his name now, he was saying that the DSP footprint is actually not all that much more. I mean, it gets more when you're doing some of the like the polyphonic algorithm stuff, but when you're just using it to kind of do basic stuff, the DSP footprint is no greater than Melodyne 3, which is of course saying something. So that's quite an interesting concept.
What about the latency? Have they improved the latency? Because that's one thing that tends to put me off using it.
I don't know. Why would what?
It always tells me. It always tells me to increase the latency on my sound card when I load that as a plugin.
I've never seen that. Mine.
Never seen that.
Maybe you just
No,
need,
Never seen
really.
you just need more
No.
power, Mark. That's what it is.
Oh, but that's because we're using
Got
the
loads
Mac.
of power.
Yeah, but it's the
I'm
wrong
all
kind.
right on power.
It's the wrong kind. It's the wrong kind of power.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. It's an i7, but it's a. I've got a Mac Mini with an i7 something in
Yeah,
it.
that
I
should
don't
be
know what.
reasonably good. Anyway,
Yeah, it's fast. It's
so,
good.
so Dave, how about yourself then? Anything? I mean, you weren't there. You were saying in an email about the whole fact that you went for 16 or 17 years or however many years it was, and there was never a more synthy NAMM than this year, which is probably the one year you would have gone if you'd had the choice to trade them all for one.
Yeah, certainly analog wise. I mean, I think the only significant. I think I started in about 92, 93, and there were some summer NAMMs in there, but I'm pretty sure it's like 18 to 20 NAMMs in total.
Wow.
And we only kind of stopped going because we stopped selling into retail. In fact, it's probably, if I was being completely honest, it's probably like 18 years of trying to brown nose Guitar Center so that you get in there so they can abuse all of your serial numbers and stock. And then you realise that you spent 18 years wasting your time. So, yes, now we sell into Sweetwater, who are utterly brilliant.
Allegedly.
And, well,
anyway.
maybe not even allegedly. But, yeah. So, yeah, I was kind of there, obviously, on a mission. And I was always running around seeing what synthy stuff. And, I mean, sometimes, some in this kind of mid-90s, there was some pretty exciting digital stuff. And then, of course, I think the only thing that really happened was the Voyager. And then, of course, we stopped going, and then this one happens, and I'm like, oh, like that. I think the OB6 is the thing that I
seems
love.
to be that seems to be the one that has got everybody here with the love of analog poly excited.
Yeah, and there's a really brilliant demo I sent, but it's very mellow. It's not this kind of full-on in-your-face synth distortion nutcase. It's using a looper thing, and it's just really nice, and it's very CS-like, and it's really expressive, and that kind of sold it to me. And the fact that Tom and Dave seem such nice people. And
yeah, I met Tom. I had a photo taken with him, and the guy who took the photo was Roger Lynn. So I felt like I had the kind of had a pretty good pedigree there.
I mean, the one thing I will say is that I did have a phone call from a reasonably high-profile artist who saw all the analog stuff being released at NAMM and suddenly went, you know what? Analog is old school. It's passé now. It's no longer cool. The cool stuff will be... Actually, that little Volca keys, the FM thing, that was really neat. I quite like to try out that Yamaha... What's it called?
Montage. Montague.
Who was this that said this?
But
Who said this?
I'm not saying who it was.
Oh, you can't say.
No, he's
I
been
think
sort
he's
of
right,
analog
personally.
guru, and he just went, look, it used to be niche and it used to be for the cool kids, and now everybody's piled on the bandwagon and it's no longer cool. And I looked around and went, I am no longer cool. Not that I ever was in the first place.
Well, you're even less cool now, Dave. Well, not in my eyes.
Seriously, I think that, man, and that was so funny. Didn't you get so much grief over that mini log thing? That was quite entertaining. But that must have been sort of star of the show. And I've heard some amazing sounds come out of that. Dan
well, one just arrived today. It's over there in the corner. It arrived like an hour before the show, and I didn't have time to set it up or anything. But I will be doing the review, so stay tuned if you want. Yes, Mark.
He did an amazing clavy.
I'm just going to say. I just want to say there's nothing uncool about analog. What's uncool about analog at the moment is that they just keep on bringing loads of new synths that sound like all the old ones. And it's just like, why? Can't we just stop doing that? We've got all these old analog synths that are brilliant. Why do we need all these ones that sound the same?
It's very interesting.
At least a few new features or something.
It's interesting. I don't know what you think about it. I had a visit from Ty Unwin yesterday, Rich, and he was saying that he's sort of come to realise that all of the stuff that he's been buying over the last 5-10 years is actually a sort of just heading back 30. It's sort of there's this sort of notion that it's all regressive, which I think there's some credibility to that argument. What do you think?
I think so, and hallelujah. Let's throw a party. It's fine. I mean, not to the exclusion
You
of
want to
anything
go
else.
back?
No. Well, I don't mind going back, but the point is, it's not to the exclusion of anything else. There's plenty of development, particularly in the Eurorack world, of modules the likes of which we've never seen anything like before.
That's very
so.
true.
So I'm cool with all that.
That's true.
It's these kind of synthesizers that are just like a machine, and you can't really do anything else with it other than it kind of emulates an old analog synthesizer, but maybe it doesn't do it quite as well. Or,
well, I tell
maybe
you what,
it does it better, but so what?
Yeah. But the thing is, you've got to.
I mean, if we're going to go back in time, I want things like the Oscar, because the Oscar had like digital waveforms, or the ESQ1 where you've got digital waveforms and analog filters.
I'm sure they might be coming. I wouldn't be surprised. Robbie, I mean, but it's about the interface, really, isn't it? That's the thing that people are digging, perhaps more than just the sound. Analog seems to be a paradigm for interface, to my mind.
I mean, let's be honest. It would, in this day and age, if you're not a real, if you've got to make music all the time, and I know Dave has got he's got an amazing collection of vintage gear, and he's got great contacts to get it fixed. But it's like a life's work keeping it all going, and it's a godsend that you can get all these great instruments that are kind of based on old instruments, but not quite. But they've got all the reliability of new things. They've got a warranty. You can rely on them to turn them on every day for however long, the next 10, 15, 20 years or whatever, till they become classics themselves. I think that's only a good thing. Sure, I mean, nobody's complaining that Fender is still making guitars, are they, or whatever?
No, that's a fair point.
And still making an SG or whatever. Okay. No, it's like Rich said. It's not to the exclusion of all the other stuff that's happening, albeit that most of it seems to be happening in Eurorack or software.
It's such a good point, Robbie, because, I mean, here's a little secret. So when I did that Korg Odyssey versus the Mark III Odyssey, I pulled the Mark I Odyssey out first of all to do an A/B, and the AR section had broken on that. I pulled the Mark II out, and one of the oscillators had busted on that, and eventually I ended up with the Mark III, obviously because it had the orange and what livery, and it's similar. We've got two OB8s, one of which works fine, and the other one, you turn it on, you tune it, and when you tune it, it loses a voice. So once it's tuned, you have to turn it off and turn it on again in order to get all 8 voices.
Oh, wow.
And the beauty with the Korg Odyssey is that I turned it on and it worked. And that's kind of what I'm hoping from something like the OB6. Is like, I turn it on, I work, I finish my work, I go home and have a beer.
Yeah.
I don't go, oh, God, it's not working. I better call Kent. Oh, can we get that one up to you? How many more of mine have you got up there that I need to bring home?
Yeah.
Are they in the way? Are they in the toilet?
Yeah. I don't want them in the toilet.
Being peed on.
I just like to bring the chat room in quickly, because there's a chap in the chat room called Parnavakacek. I'm sorry if my pronunciation. Please, guys, bring Eurorack to India. I'm searching all over my country, but no supplies at all. So there's an opening there for somebody who would like to think about importing Eurorack into India. There we go. That's my public service part done. But yes, I want to say thank you to the chat room. Very fulsome, as I like to say.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes, please do.
Eurorack. So if we're getting onto Eurorack, the same I wish I could say the name, but the same person who said analog is not cool had gone and invested in a load of Eurorack stuff. And this was quite a while ago, and he said, I'm reaching the same point with Eurorack that I reached with my constantly looping 8 bars on my computer.
Yeah.
In that I am not finishing what I need to finish. And at some point, I can see myself going completely back in the box, because I can get deep in terms of composition and then use the other stuff to kind of add the spice. And I thought, there's an interesting thought.
There is. I would like to say quickly one thing. I'm starting to get the inkling of an idea. I've just got the Arturia BeatStep Pro, because I need something for something that's coming up to be able to control everything. And I came up with this idea, yes, because I'm not using it for necessarily sequencing everything. I'm using part of it to MIDI control a Behringer X-Air, so I can actually turn it down and switch effects on and stuff. But then I had this idea that you could actually connect up the CV's output and put them into various inputs on a Eurorack, and then when you change patches or step through a sequence, that parameter becomes fixed to that particular voltage. So it effectively is partial patch recall, obviously without the storage. So you use the control voltage to actually set up, like, I don't know, an LFO speed or the depth of something or a filter opening or whatever, so that you've got the starting point. So if you're careful, you could actually use it to create limited patch change and sound changes by using CV and then stepping through sequences. I haven't quite fully formed it, but I just started to look at it the other day because I was thinking, actually, I'll be changing programs on, say, the Sub 37 and some effects, and then I want, the speed of the LFO to match up to something like this, so I can just go, that's a CV, and I just thought, So I think there might be some mileage in there somewhere, but that's really got nothing to do with anything. But I don't.
So are you gonna invent CV gate morphing then?
No.
Or CV morphing?
I doubt it.
Where you go from voltage to voltage?
Well, I suppose it's possible. I don't know if that's possible.
That could be interesting.
It could be. Sorry, Robbie, you sounded like...
Yeah, I was going to say, I read something a few months ago about this guy. I forgot. He's very famous. I can't remember at the moment. A film scorer who's recently done 2 or 3 film scores, mostly on modular Eurorack, which I just thought was amazing. And he was not just committing everything. He was like old school, taking photographs of patches and all this stuff. And so, I mean, it's just a minefield when you do film scoring about having to go back and recall, cues and all this stuff. So I just thought it was unbelievable somebody would go to those lengths. But I agree with what Dave's saying. I mean, when you look at like most people who like put demos online of their most exotic Eurorack patch, it's just like a kind of fridge malfunctioning kind of thing. with mutable instruments clouds over the top of it, and it all sounds great, but you wonder how many people actually use the Eurorack in real music. And I think the secret is being able to actually harness it into real music and not spend your whole day wasted. It's finding a really kind of concise way of using it, and I don't think there's a lot of people yet who kind of do that.
No, well, every session is a journey, isn't it? It's an infinite number of things. But yes, I agree. At this point, I think it's probably time to introduce a word from our sponsors. Obviously, Isotope being 15, I have a message. Let me see if I can get the ad to play, because it's always a challenge. And there we go. There will be a competition winner and announcement afterwards. Here we go.
Produce rich, full, professional-sounding tracks with the critically acclaimed mastering tools in Ozone and Ozone Advanced. Now, the latest Isotope innovations in Ozone 7 bring modern and vintage processing to the forefront of the music production experience. Updated for Ozone 7, Ozone's highly regarded maximizer features a brand new frequency-specific IRC4 algorithm that delivers transparent mixes with less pumping and distortion. Use it to smooth out an unwieldy mix, or tame the kick drum peaks without affecting the vocals. The Dynamic EQ, now in both the advanced and standard versions of Ozone, lives and breathes with your audio, giving you more effective control over your sound without coloring your entire mix. Harness the precision of an equalizer and the musical ballistics of a compressor in one integrated processor.
Anyway, I want to say thank you very much to Isotope for sponsoring the show. If you want to check out Isotope, which is pretty much the de facto mastering to either bus or channels or the final mix, please go to isotope.com/ozone. Incidentally, as part of their 15 years celebrations, they've released this free plugin, which is free until March the 10th, which is D-Delay, which is a dual delay with a kind of dynamics threshold that then takes transients to the top delay and everything below the threshold to the bottom delay. And it's a really interesting notion. It's also got a granular delay in there as well, so you can get quite a lot of cool sounds, and that's free, normally $50. And the thing that's quite cool about that is I met them at NAMM, and they were telling me a little bit about how it came about, and they just had a kind of like a hackaday type thing where they basically decided to get everybody together and say, who wants to do what? Let's come up with some ideas. And that was the one that floated to the top, and then the person with the idea got access to the engineering team and the graphics and stuff, and they just made it, in a very short period of time and turned it into a product. And I just think, what a cool notion. So Anyway, that was the Isotope slot. And of course, we do have competition winner to announce from last week. Last week, we asked you to tweet the hashtag WeAre15 to celebrate the birthday and the hashtag Ozone7 to @sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. And we have a winner. The winner is a chap called Mike Heigerman on Twitter, at Mike Heigerman. You'll know who you are. I can't spell it. It's got far too many complicated letters in it. But if you have won a copy of Ozone 7, so let us know, and the Isotope Ferry will get in touch. He tweeted, "Thanks for the weekly entertainment. Keep up the good work." It was a very popular show last week, and so much so we've got an enormous number of people in the chat room, which is awesome. And of course, we've got another competition this week. I mean, I can't give you a competition for D-Delay because it's free, so go and get that anyway. But if you want to win a copy of Ozone 7 this week, tweet the hashtag FreeDDLY, which is free D-Delay, and the hashtag Ozone7 to @sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. So if you want, just to repeat that for maybe our audio listeners, the hashtag FreeDDLY and the hashtag Ozone7 to @sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. And you will be entered with a chance to win a full copy of Ozone 7.
Nick, can I just say, it's also worth mentioning they've just rebooted the vinyl plugin that they had for years. It's 64-bit and it's got like a new tape stop bit in it. I love that plugin.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, there's lots and lots of stuff for celebrating. So I want to say thank you to them for their sponsorship. Of course, again, as we were talking a little bit about the concept of new instruments, how about this? This is the El-Cajon, which is a cajon, but it's also got DSP inside it and extra voicing with a couple of pads, which is actually a really simple but quite a cool idea. Runs on 6 AA batteries, got a little speaker in it. Doesn't come with the fantastically attractive player, of course, or the talent enabled to deal with it. But it has quite a lot of sounds. This is, in fact, Heidi Hubert, who was demonstrating at NAMM. We did actually try and film something, but there was a problem with the demonstration. Unfortunately, we couldn't bring that to you. So this by way of a kind of reboot of that. So it's about 300 quid. It weighs £6. Seems like a really cool idea. I mean, I know there's probably a lot of buskers who use cajon, and it beats setting up a drum kit, Dave?
No, you're all right, thanks.
Not the innovation you were looking for then in new instruments.
I did watch the video. God, there's 3 minutes of my life I'll never get back. No,
I bet you're sitting on one now, aren't you?
Yeah. No, I haven't.
It doesn't. Okay, well that's fair enough. Doesn't mean anything to you. Okay, I'm going to go to Robbie then. I mean, they do this from time to time. They roll on. I mean, remember when the V accordion came out, everybody just started sort of spat their tea out. But actually, it's a really successful instrument for them.
Yeah, I mean, I did a. Howard did a thing for the Jupiter 80 once at one of these a special show, and they had like one person represented from every sector of Roland, and there's somebody showing their pipe organ, and they had someone showing their grand piano, and someone showing the harpsichord, and they had someone showing the accordion. And I was absolutely flabbergasted about this guy who did the accordion, who was like a world champion, and what he was able to achieve. So after all the sniggering about V accordions, like you say, it is pretty impressive in the right hands. But I'm not sure. I've never been a big fan of cajons really. And so, I'm not sure whether it's just, to me, it's just one of those funny kind of Roland sort of left field product launches. Has it got MIDI?
That's a very good question. I don't know. That would be brilliant if it did, or at least more brilliant. So I don't know. I have to try and find that out. Actually, not quite sure about that.
I know. Sure. As I say, I don't think we'll be getting one in here to play.
Maybe a sort of a feature seat. I know.
Yeah, in the hands of the wrong person, it always sounds someone throwing a bucket of spanners down the stairs. You know what I mean? It has to be someone who's good at it.
Well, that's fair enough. Rich, there's certainly in the warmer areas of America, there are quite a lot of busking bands who use cajon. I mean, it's a very simple setup, that and a little cymbal or that sort of thing. I don't know whether this has you don't necessarily hear it on a lot of contemporary music. I mean, unless it's maybe a kind of folky kind of acoustic type number.
It's becoming very popular over the last few years. We have one. My son James plays the hell out of it. I love the cajon. I've seen other guys also play the hell. I have a friend named Todd who gigs with my friend Jim in New York City, and some gigs he's playing like a hi-hat, a cajon, and a couple of shaky things. It's incredibly versatile. It's a really cool instrument in the hands of people who know how to evoke numerous different kinds of tones. And for that person, I imagine this instrument would be really cool.
Yeah.
And I want to hear it.
Right, I think that's fair enough. Mark, did I see you actually manhandling something looking rather like a cajon into shot there?
Yeah, you did.
Is that something you use regularly?
Christmas.
Did you?
And you see it's got a great big hole in the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you get
This
one of
is
those free when you
Gaz's
move to
recommendation. He said he's been saying buy a mini rig for ages, and this guy on Glastonbury High Street was selling cajons which have a hole in the side that you can put your mini rig in like this. And then I've got it absolutely sorted. For me, this is perfect because I've got this app on my iPhone called Brazilian Drum Machine. So I just do this.
And you don't actually have to play it.
So Roland have kind of invented the opposite, haven't they? They've got a cajon with a speaker in it that enhances the player. I can just sit on there and bash it occasionally and make it look like I'm doing something really impressive.
What do you do while you're sat on it? Are you playing the guitar along with it? Is that your kind of...
Well, it actually makes the mini rig sound a bit better. So, and it's got a slot inside it for a mini rig sub. So, my intention is to... I've got one of those lines...
Not very portable.
I've got one of those line 6... sonic ports. If I plug the line 6 sonic port in and plug the guitar into it, the guitar sounds absolutely awesome.
Oh, that's an interesting
My intention
idea.
is to take it up the Glastonbury High Street, play the guitar through it, and then find somebody that knows how to play it to sit on it and to play along with me. So I'm going to go busking, and somebody else is going to play this while I play the guitar.
I'm worried that if you hit that a lot, the mini rig will fall out.
But yeah, it hasn't so far. Actually, it's quite good. But you know what? I think Roland have been making some inroads into some really good busking equipment because some of the little amps they've got.
No, that's very true. Yeah,
they've got these things that look like miniature wedges, but it's got like an interface where you can plug a microphone and a guitar in it. It's got like that lovely classic kind of Roland chorus on it and a bit of reverb. And I think they run off like a handful of AA batteries, and they're so loud and clear, and they sound so good. I'm like, I mean, I've got a PA, and we did Glastonbury Fringe Festival last year, and I brought my PA down to the Market Square and sort of let people play through it. And there was this one guy with one of those little Roland things, which was clearer and louder than my PA.
Wow.
Thinking, what?
That's very true.
They just improved the technology so much, and they're really aiming it at the right place for busking.
I think that's probably where we missed it. The busking kind of notion. What's that you've got there, Dave? Spoons.
Yeah, MIDI spoons. But it only works with a Thunderbolt cable, and my Thunderbolt cable's a bit up the swanny at the minute. But yeah.
I love the irony.
I love it.
I love the irony that Mark's got a mini rig speaker, and to make it sound better, he puts it into a full-size cabinet.
Yeah, exactly.
But also,
it's got a piece of rope round it
also
as well, so I
doubles
can
as a
carry
seat.
it.
Yeah.
So it doubles as a seat, and it doubles as a bag. So if I go to a festival, I can put my beer inside here as well.
Actually, that's a good point. If you had a little door on it, you could fill it full of all the things you might need. So the whole thing is like
One of those mini fridges, yeah.
Yeah,
Kit
excellent.
Kats and things.
That's awesome.
And
Now,
little tiny shorts and stuff.
that is a great point about the busking thing, actually. So, yeah, fair enough. And now for something completely different. This is kind of more in your software vein. So this is an expansion
Hi, this is
pack
Pendle from
for
SoundDust
Flutter EP.
with a quick talk through of the new add-on to the Flutter EP. Now this is the Flutter EP Wavetable. This is a slightly different approach. which I've been working on for a while, and there are going to be other versions of this coming soon as well, but this for now is an extra bonus that goes with the Flutter EP. What we've done this time is created more, and I recently got it fixed. Oops. Reverb convolutions. Present the flat notes.
I won't play the whole thing, but actually this is an expansion for the Flutter EP, which sounds like it's a sort of granular kind of piano-based contact instrument. You do need a full version of contact for it, but I was talking to I think Ty replied to the show notes saying that he really rates the Flutter EP and all the stuff that the chap called Pendle, is he called Pendle? Pendle does, and so I just thought I'd throw it out there. And I know Robbie, you work a lot in the box. Is this something that you're kind of that you've come across?
No, I'm gonna download it after the show. I haven't got enough bandwidth to do both, so I was sold on it straight away. It's right up my street. But it also reminded me of something I was actually excited about from NAMM, was the announcement that BT has got a software instrument thing coming out with Spitfire Audio, which is based on rhythmic convolutions. After all that talk about convolutions and rhythm, he's actually developing a proper tool with them. And there's a kind of a preview online I've managed to find. I've forgotten where it is, but that's coming out in the summer. So
I tell you what, Spitfire Audio had one of the biggest stands I've seen. You know, when you consider it was basically, it was a huge stand. It was an entire corner with a massive sweeping white wall with Spitfire. I mean, it's a really big deal. So obviously they're making a big push into that whole thing. But it does sound kind of interesting. I know, Rich, you're quite taken by these kind of almost boutique contact instruments as well, and this thing's it's like 35 quid, so I don't know why, it's maybe $50 or something like that, so it's perhaps a bit more than some of the really kind of low cost ones. But is it something you've come across?
No, it's not, and unfortunately I didn't get a chance to watch the video before the show, but yes, I do like what can be done in contact these days, and look forward to checking it out.
You will need 5.51 up, and the sample sets are made of Pianet T, Moog Voyager, Nord Modular, Nord Wave, Salisbury at Megatron, which is I think a Eurorack module, Waldorf Wave XT, DSI Pro 2, and processed through a pair of warm Audio Tone Beast preamps. I know, Dave, you're the I don't know how much contact stuff you use, whether or not you kind of enter that world, or whether you're more of a Spectrasonics kind of dude.
Spectrasonics, man.
Actually, I got to say, I did really enjoy that interview you did with Eric.
Oh, thank you.
And I think I'm a very low rent version of Eric Persing, like a British by default, just very low rent. But the idea of musicality being everything. Anyway, no, I haven't got this. Yes, I probably would get it for the price if I used the full version of Contact. But I find that I use a few instruments on the player. There's some great pianos and stuff that I use, but I don't have the kind of full version. Yeah, I think there's a barrier to entry for these kind of smaller developers, because to have it compiled into a player version is a service, I think, that Native Instruments offer. So it becomes, you have to buy into it and license it and stuff. So that's why you see a lot of these people like the sort of Hollow Sun stuff and some of the other things that we've looked at, because they don't work in the player, because it's a different kind of process.
That's annoying. That is annoying, because I've got a lot of contact libraries, and then I hate the fact you have to go and use the old library menu with the tiny writing to find certain libraries, and other ones you can just find in the the main list. I always assumed it was some sort of licensing thing for costing.
I think I might be right. I think I might be right on that, but I think it's a different thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
Well, that's fair enough. But I guess if you have got contact, it's probably well worth looking at. I don't know what you thought that might. It's quite. I mean, I like there's some really nice kind of massive convolution reverbs in there, and that whole granular stuff looked really interesting.
I'll tell you what I thought of it. I bought it.
Oh, cool.
Already got it.
So I just looked at that, I watched the video for about 2 minutes and just went, wow, I want that. Obviously you can do all of that stuff in Contact, but the way it's laid out and the way it's set up and the way it's been put together, brilliant. It looks really cool, and I can't wait to start playing with it.
Oh, well, that's really good news. And I think actually coming back to your point about pushing the boundaries a little bit, what's really interesting about this, I mean, it's not a new synthesis technology, a new synthesis method, but it's a really elegant and simple front end to doing that kind of stuff, and you can see what's going on, and the fact that, you know, the waveforms are the fade waveforms for the either end of the little grain, and it's just sort of like, I get that completely, and it's almost down to another way of thinking about the same thing, in the same way that, you know, we're all still waiting for that to happen with FM and certain other kinds of synthesis which are quite impenetrable, perhaps modular even to a degree. It's about innovation in access to those kind of those techniques that makes them come much more to the front. So I think this is a great example of that.
Musicality. I liked his demo as well.
Yes.
It's like in your face, it's amazing, really buy this, it's amazing. He's just like, really calm, let me talk you through this, and this does this, and this does this.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant. Very British.
Thumbs up for that. Okay, well, that's good. You can get that. You need to go to, just look for SoundDust or Flutter EP, and it should show up pretty top in the rankings, and you'll be able to see it. This is this, and let's get onto this one, because I'm digging this completely. I don't know whether, I think actually YouTube's going to copyright algorithm's going to have difficulty with this, because it's so ambient that I think it might. So this is I'll just play a little bit of this. This is some music. I guess because it develops so slowly, it's probably not going to be able to play much of it to get you an idea of the theme. But this is a clip from the soundtrack for The Revenant by Ryuichi Sakamoto, Alva Noto, and a chap called Bryce Desner. And it was a part of an article, an article that was on Create Digital Music, which was by Peter Kern, just about the soundtrack release. And I listened to it, and it just really, really blew me away. I just think it's absolutely fantastic. And one of the reasons I do think it's fantastic is A, because it's Ryuichi Sakamoto. I've got a real soft spot for, love his kind of the way that he does things, but also the fact that it's so orchestral, yet it's got electronics in there which are very subtle. But the sounds of the strings are really unusual and really kind of weird. And because of the way that The Revenant was made, which is very low on dialogue, the music plays a very strong part. I haven't seen it, but I'm imagining it must do. Takes a really strong part in the whole part of the film. And, you know, it's nominated for, I don't know, what is it, 12 Oscars, and it got 3 Golden Globes. And I just thought, ooh, that's really lovely. And I know, Rich, you've worked on a number of soundtracks, and presumably with orchestras and strings and what have you. Does this strike you as something kind of unusual in the string role? Because it's got that Sakamoto low cellos, but it's also got these really weird and unusual kind of. There are probably terms for it, you know, how you play a violin to get that really raspy sound. But he's really, really strong on the kind of making all those people play in a very specific way. It sounds like.
Well, what I just heard sounded great. I haven't heard anything else though, so not really qualified to evaluate the string sound, but.
I could thoroughly recommend it. It's available on Milan Records. They do a lot of stuff. I know, Robbie. I know you're a connoisseur of soundtracks as well. I mean, and play some yourself.
Yeah, I've seen it, and it's brilliant, and the soundtrack's amazing. I mean, you're right. It's there's kind of a kind of renewed interest in kind of strings in a very different way. You know. Everyone's kind of honed in on people like Oliver Arnold and Niels Frahm and people like that who treat the orchestra a little bit differently and try and create all these different slightly odd treatments of the way you use strings. And I mean, I love this. I am absolutely in love with this. That's, you know, right up my street. But the tragedy is, and the travesty is that he can't be nominated for an Oscar for it, because there's some loophole, because it's been put together by... He added stuff to somebody else's work, so he's not eligible to be up for an Oscar for composer, because it doesn't fit into the criteria for a film score.
Oh, that is tragic. That is really tragic.
There's a whole thing online about it, how it's, you know, it's just another example of how antiquated a lot of these kind of, you know, the way things are looked at, particularly in like film scoring is. So, yeah.
Damn, that is annoying actually, because I mean, I don't know if Sakamoto's been he's done a number of soundtracks. I know. Dave, are you a fan of Sakamoto's work? I mean, I was first exposed to him when he worked with Japan, and he did that the B-side of I think it was Ghost, wasn't it? Bamboo Music or Bamboo Houses, or maybe it was Bamboo Music and Bamboo Houses, which is just and it was just like, wow, that is awesome.
Yeah, brilliant. Love this. I couldn't get some of the stuff that you sent through to play, so I had to kind of find it via... it was sending me to Spotify, and I don't do Spotify. So I found it on SoundCloud, and yeah, I had it kind of going on most of the morning while I was working away. Beautiful, really beautiful.
It's interesting what Robbie was saying about they're finding people who are treating orchestras in a different way. And I can only assume that's because basically anyone who does a lot of orchestral stuff and has a sound gets made into some kind of contact string library. So you get all those articulations and those kind of now sounds. And because you can't get them anywhere else, because it's Sakamoto, and Sakamoto presumably hasn't and probably will never will, that's why it will. Because it must be phenomenally expensive to record this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that when I have done some sound design stuff for movies, the brief has generally been very similar in that you have to try and confuse I said it before, you have to try and confuse the listener whether it's organic or synthetic or whatnot, and actually mucking around with orchestral stuff, particularly in with a beautiful EQ, where you've got really nice resonance and cue, where it's musical, where it's not, self-oscillating or anything. You can get these absolutely beautiful sweeps that, if you pick out the right harmonics, they become almost as much of the part of the composition or the playing as the tweaking you're doing. You can do some amazing stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine. Rich, I just spotted in the chat room that you met Sakamoto.
Yes, that's true. A couple of times, actually, yeah.
I can confess I did too, actually. You go first.
Oh, he was just a very nice man. He was working on a project when I first met him at Skyline Studios. Friends of mine were engineering, and I was invited in to say hello and listen a little bit. And then a year or two later, I was also a fly on the wall at a Yellow Magic Orchestra session at the same studios, where all three of them were there working. It was hilarious. It was actually, you could do a comedy routine on what it was like, because you walk in to a dead silent control room, and Harry Hosono is standing in front of a keyboard, and he'll play one note, yeah. Everybody kind of goes like this. And then he'll tweak something, and then he'll play one note. And and this went on for a long time. It was hard for me not to burst out laughing at times, because the whole scene was so bizarre. But they were all extremely nice, and he did end up in a really nice place with the sound that he was going for. And it was a great privilege for me to see them together in the same room. And I admire quite a bit of what I've heard that they've done, and even some of the individual projects, particularly Sakamoto and the drummer, who I think is named Takahashi.
Right.
I'm not as familiar with Harry Hosono's solo work, but it was really, for me, a great privilege to get to see that.
Nice one. Thank you very much. Mark, what do you make of this? It's got a lovely kind of vibe to it, hasn't it? It's really atmospheric, and I'm guessing a lot of the ambience in there is not the hall they recorded it in, but that's some sort of lovely space.
It's got that kind of washy sort of Lexicon 480 sort of feel to it, I think.
Maybe so, yeah.
I like all this sort of stuff. I always like music like this. What else is there to say? It's sort of one of my favourite kinds of music. So,
well then I suggest you get the album. Just going back to the Sakamoto thing, I met him once. We went to, when we were in New York, and it was the time when we'd been flown over. We'd just done Tom's Diner, and we'd been flown over to work with Suzanne, and she had a track. She said, "Oh, well, look, do you fancy kind of collaborating on this and having a remix where we're involved?" So we went, okay. We went to her apartment, and we were working there sort of on and off, and staying a couple of blocks away in a hotel. And then all this stuff is because we were, at the time quite sought after, just purely because we'd had such a hit with this remix, or she'd had a hit. So we were getting, so and so wants to come by something. And I remember I may have told this story before, but we were there at Suzanne's place, and we get a phone call saying Sakamoto wants to meet you guys. Do you want to go out for dinner? He really wants to talk to you about music. And I was just thinking, I was like 20, and this guy was, speaks 5 languages, is fully versed in music theory and music production, and I was absolutely terrified. So there's no way I'm going out with him. I'll be a gibbering wreck. I won't be comfortable at all. So my partner said, well, I'll go then, which is fair, fair play to him, because I would have said no as well, but nowadays, of course, I jump at it. But so he went out, and they went, and it was all right. And then suddenly there was a ring at the door, because Suzanne said, on absolutely no way, bring them back here. Please don't bring them back here, because I'm not, she was just in hanging out kind of mode. And the doorbell went, and they turned up, and they're like at the door. There's Mr. Sakamoto. And his manager, I don't remember what his name was, who was very, very LA. He had like a kind of like zebra print, shiny, metallic kind of a jacket on, and was just big and everything. And it's like, hey, and it was just him walking into this environment of, oh my God, what are you doing here? And then Ryuichi came up, and he gave us some gifts, and he was really just so polite, and I just didn't know what to say to him. He gave me a CD of his work. It was Sheltering Sky, I think it was around that time, with Deborah Winger film, and he gave me this beautiful CD presentation box with sort of rice in it, and all made out of paper and stuff. And then we stood around for a little bit, and then he left, and it was just so embarrassing for everybody involved, and that's my story. There's nothing else to it. And Suzanne was really cross, and Neil, my partner, said, I'm really sorry, I didn't know what to do. You have no idea what that was like. It was a nightmare. I was sitting around at the table, and it was just really, because I know nothing about music. I'm just a DJ with a few ideas, and it was just all round a bit of a disaster. So but lovely fellow, and I'd like to meet him again in other circumstances. Yeah, I doubt if he'll remember you. Yeah, I doubt it very much. I mean, he might remember the situation, because it was so excruciating. But he probably won't remember me, because I look very different, as I'm sure you would appreciate. That was probably nearly 30 years or more ago. So anyway, that's my Sakamoto story. And we did actually end up doing a remix for him. We did a remix of, and I've probably told this story as well, of We Love You, which is a Stones track. And he sent us, I remember, because he wanted us to remix it, and it came on 48 tracks. We had to get it transferred, because it was on backing vocals. The people singing it were Robert Wyatt and Brian Wilson. And one of the main reasons that we did it, A, was because I think Ryuichi Sakamoto is fantastic, and B, because my partner Neil was really into the Beach Boys, and he just thought, I've got... But unfortunately for us, Brian Wilson was not at his best at that time. The vocals were really shaky and quite sort of thin and unconfident. And Robert Wyatt, as you know, if you've heard of his voice, it's also quite whiny and thin. Brilliant songwriter, fantastic player, everything. But those two together, we were like, oh, let's hear it then. And we turned it. We were expecting this kind of Beach Boy-esque kind of... And it was just not that at all. It was this really thin, warbly, whiny kind of sound. And that's... so. But I think we remixed it anyway, but I doubt if you'll be able to find it anywhere, because I don't know if it was ever... totally approved of by anybody involved. I think I still got the multi-track somewhere. Anyway, yes. Have you met him, Dave?
Sakamoto?
Yeah.
No.
Ah, okay.
No, he popped round once, but I was out.
Ah, yeah. I'd imagine he probably wanted to...
He wanted to play on... I can't remember what synth it was. I think it was that called Micro Preset.
Ah, yeah.
He'd heard about it, but he had never seen one. No, none of that's true.
It was a CSO1.
Yeah.
With the breath
No, he couldn't have that. Jimmy Somerville had that at the time.
But I mean, in Japan, Sakamoto is he's a massive star, absolutely huge. He's one of those kind of iconic musicians, which I didn't realise at the time. I mean, well, he is everywhere, but it's very much so in Japan. Of course, I suppose one would assume he would be. I mean, with a career spanning, I don't know how long he's been around. I mean, he collaborated on synths with Japan, but he must have been doing lots of stuff before. He was really big into percussive stuff, I seem to remember, right at the beginning. But
wasn't he in Yellow Magic Orchestra?
Yes, I know. Yes, he was. When were Yellow Magic Orchestra operating?
Quite early on, I think. 81, 82, maybe.
Maybe so. Yeah. Anyway, my anecdote seems to have muted everybody.
I think I discovered him through that Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. I think that's kind of where I first came across him.
Well, and
then he did stuff with Dolby, didn't he, as well? And
did he? I didn't know
during that period, he was really prolific. I kind of got, he was, fascinating.
He was a bit of a fast show. It was he wrote the theme tune, starred in it, and everything, didn't he? In Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, he was kind of one of the leading. It was Bowie. He was with Bowie with that, wasn't he?
Well, Bowie was acting, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, hang on a minute. It wasn't Sakamoto acting.
Sakamoto,
yeah, of course.
I think Bowie played the kind of the prisoner, and Sakamoto played the commandant, if I recall correctly.
YMO.
Well, according to Wikipedia, they started in 1976.
Wow. Okay. Sorry, Rich, you were just about to come in there.
Mark
you
just
were just
said what I was going to say.
the same. Are you going to say the same?
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I thoroughly recommend that you check that out. It's on Milan Records. Milan actually do loads of soundtrack stuff. If you're interested in soundtracks, that seems to be their specialism, and it's well worth checking out. You can get it on iTunes and all over the place, and it really is a bit of a treat. Seems like that might be a good time to call it a King Sunny, as it were. 5:05. I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. I know we didn't get through all of the topics, but we certainly have plenty to talk about.
Can I just go sideways very quickly
before
that? Because I never quite finished the NAMM thing.
Okay.
So there's two other things I noticed, which I really like the look of. It was the Yamaha wireless MIDI, which looked really clever, and I think I could find a use for that. And the other thing was the Kemper profiler, the profiling amp. But something about this whole profiling idea, if you've got a software model of a synthesizer and you know what to do to make a certain sound come out the other end of it, who is going to invent the profiling synthesizer and when? I want to be able to play my old Jupiter 8 into this new profiling synthesizer, and it will listen to it, and then it will find 5 different ways to recreate that sound and present them to me, and I'll be able to decide which was the best one. Because if you can model with a computer going one way, you must be able to undo it and model going back the other way, surely.
Dave?
Yeah, we'll get on that. After we've got a lot on. We've got obviously MIDI spoons there, and then we've also got Eurorack MIDI spoons there. So after we've done that, either they're small or they're very far away. So yeah,
given enough computing program power, it's got to be possible, though. Do you think it's possible, doable with enough power?
I would imagine.
It's called sampling, isn't it?
Well, kind of.
No, I don't want it sampling because I want to be able to then turn all the knobs and make.
No, you could. I mean, in theory, you could take a closed oscillator version of a sound and then an open oscillator, closed filter version of a sound and an open filter sound, and then it would interpolate it. But I'd imagine that the processing's a bit kind of whoa.
Dave, I just have a question for you. Why have you got so many spoons in your studio?
Chris has been busy while I've been mucking about on the podcast. He's been busy working, haven't you, Chris? Yes.
Okay. And I presumably you would need a whole set of spoons developing a MIDI spoon. That would make sense.
Spoonatron.
Yeah. Well, you've got to model them correctly, otherwise they just don't work. I mean, even these mini spoons. That's a bit.
I guess you could release a stainless sound pack and a silver sound pack and maybe a pewter one as well, and wooden. If you were
Entron Pro.
Ceramic as well.
Ceramic spoons. Yeah, but spoons.
Oh, I've got a lovely olive wood spoon downstairs, a big ladle, lovely, gorgeous thing.
Oh, you need a pair of them though, Mark. You couldn't possibly sample just one.
I'm not sure I could play them because it's pretty big.
Sorry.
Who played a lot? Somebody played upon a ladle, didn't they? A ladle. Somebody played upon aching drum, wasn't it?
I don't know. Anyway, this is rapidly descending into a different kind of podcast. So I will say thank you very much to everybody for joining us. It's been a real pleasure as ever. Thank you very much, Rich. I hope you are tucked up warm and cozy and stocked up on all the good things you need to enjoy the snow without actually having to leave the house.
No, I'm actually going to the studio sometime today.
Okay.
We had to dismantle the studio for certain home improvement things, and now it's going back together, and very nicely, I might add.
Excellent. That sounds lovely. I'm thinking of doing. Well, we had to actually just cover the studio because it was really stormy here. We were hit by storm imaging, and the roof started to leak. So basically, the whole place got covered in plastic over the weekend because it was just dripping, and it was like, oh god. And that's with a new flat roof as well. It's a nightmare. Anyway, thank you very much. And also, thank you, Marc Tinley, for joining us too. It's been a pleasure having you aboard. Thanks for your insights. How are you?
Yeah, thank you.
Fixed
Very
for
welcome.
the rest of the week?
Fixed?
Are you fixed for the rest of the week? Are you got many projects on? Musical or otherwise?
God, just that same one, the same boxes and boxes and boxes of VHS tapes project, which is never going to end now, I think. Because I've just been told we're going to send you a whole load more tapes, and I've gone like, oh, okay.
Well,
so how long have I been doing it now? Nearly a year. So
wow, nice gig though.
There's more to do. Lots more to do.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Marc. It's a pleasure to have you aboard.
You're very welcome.
Also, Robbie, thank you for joining. You can report back to the BT engineers, who are the telecom provider, that it worked.
I'm just about to do a rescore of the Revenant, I think. There you go.
Oh, what's that sound? What's that one?
Us.
It's part of the Spitfire Audio Oliver Arnold string library.
Ah, there you go. Oh, that does sound nice. Is that something you use a lot? I mean, I guess it's the sort of thing. Is it mostly filmic stuff you'd use that for? Because it's quite languid, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. I've only just got it just for some stuff I'm doing, but it's a clever library because it's got all these articulations that are layered together. So when you play them, there's all this kind of interactive stuff that all happens in kind of real time. It's really nice.
That sounds
very
good.
nice.
Well, thank you very much, Robbie, for joining us and for that little demonstration. And also, Mr. Dave Spears, G4 Software, Sons OB8.
No, 8 voice. But
8 voice. Oh, yeah,
I've got to do this. I've got to plug this because everyone's turned off anyway. Strictly Tapes Vol 3.
Really yes, of course.
Bit of an end of a journey. The last, well, we did 3 volumes. Yeah, because it's volume 3, isn't it? God. Volume 3 is the last in the trilogy of the Streetly M400 tapes. And yeah, they're really good, actually. I really like them, including a Moogie Whoosh. Somebody actually sampled the Moog modular onto a Mellotron so they could play it back polyphonically in the day, took it to NAMM, played it, and this is a true story. Bob heard it, went over and went, "What's that?" And they went, "It's your instrument polyphonically." There you go. and there's even a Fairlight Swanee on it. I mean, it's kind of weird, isn't it? I suppose it was it was the first sampler. Anyway,
was a Mellotron cheaper than a Fairlight? Yes, it would. It would have been, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I remember in about probably about 79 when Fairlights. I suppose the Synclav was around, but I remember being down at kind of some rock star's studio and smashing milk bowls against concrete, and they were recording it to put it into a Mellotron to get all these kind of sound effects. Anyway, there you go. I had to do that.
I was chatting with a chap over the weekend who's in his 70s who was in a band in the 70s and they used a Mellotron, and he said, and I didn't know this, but he said whenever they played a big chord on it, the whole thing used to slow down and go completely out of pitch. So they couldn't play it polyphonically.
When Wakeman talked about when he was doing Space Oddity with Bowie and Visconti, I think it was the Mark II, the chain. Anyway, the motor, the more notes you played, the more strain it put on the motor. So it would slow it down. So Wakeman was actually using the speed pitch up, down in real time to keep the thing in tune, depending on how many notes he was playing. That's proper muso, that is, isn't it?
Wow.
That is impressive. Anyway, that's it for this week. Anyway, yes, and do check out Dave's Streetly Volume 3 tape, Streetly Mellotron.
50% off.
50% off, that's right. 50%
Till
off.
Tuesday.
Till Tuesday.
Right.
So you've got, Right. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Don't forget, if you want to enter the competition for the... Let me see if I can find... I'm looking for my mouse. You need to tweet the hashtag DDLY, doesn't have to be capitals like it is there, and the hashtag Ozone7 was the number 7 to @sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. to win a copy of Isotope's Ozone mastering plugin. So once again, thank everybody for joining us. Thanks to everybody in the chat room. It's been a pleasure having you all aboard, and a very fulsome one it was too. That's it for this week. See you next time.
I could have played you out.